Hi, and welcome to my EDL 856 internal and external publics presentation. In this presentation, I'm going to outline the internal and external publics of the Derby Public School District. I think it's important to point out or note that the internal communications, it refers to the communication that is happening between two or more members of the Derby School District, and that communication, it is happening from both ends. And that the external, it refers to a member of the school district and external party or organization. So, and that as well is happening both ways. So, to kind of start off with, I did struggle with the organization of the material, just kind of like making sure that there was a clear internal side and a clear external side, and that all the information was easy and clear for everybody to, sorry, my dog's in the background, everybody to understand. I also used a new kind of website to create this information, which I've never used before. So again, that was just a new learning curve. I wanted to make sure though that in this visual and in this image that Derby was in the center, because everything, the internal and external publics, it all revolves around the Derby Public School District. So whether you are a member of the Derby Public Schools or you're not a member of the Derby Public Schools, the communication is still reaching you at some way. So the internal publics that I listed here for the public Derby is school board, superintendent, the administration, teachers, staff, students, and I also included parents because in the school that I'm at right now, Tanglewood, there are parents that are a part of the internal community of Derby Public Schools. And when thinking about the type of communication that's happening between the internal publics, most of it is informal, which means that the conversations or the information that is being shared, it's day-to-day kind of conversations. The information is not as formal as the external publics. However, it can be formal depending on the situation. The information that is being shared, though, it is just information that is needed. It's needed information between the different stakeholders, and the frequency is high. Now, looking at the external publics are the parents, community members, local partners, and donors. I lumped the community members, local partners, and donors together in my explanation below, but it's different for the external publics, that the communication, it's mostly formal, and the formal use of communication, it's used in order to reduce the risk of poor publicity. We always have to be mindful about how we have to remain professional when dealing with all four of these entities, because they are who we serve, and we want to make sure that we are being professional and the information that we are provided is accurate and consistent. The information that is being shared is used to increase recognition, maintain relationships, and exchange information. So that's why I have these arrows going back and forth, because as we are sharing information to the public, it's also important for us to be gaining that information from them as well through surveys, and just town hall meetings, whatever the case may be. The information, it is a two-way street. These are the different forms of communication that Derby uses frequently. We use several meetings and town halls, send several emails, robocalls, newsletters, and social media. Below, I answered the questions that was asked for the assignment. There were three questions that I kind of broke down each one for. The internal questions are different than the externals because I feel the purpose of internal publics and external publics is different. So the three questions that I used were who does each stakeholder communicate with? How frequently is the communication happening? And does there need to be two-way communication? That's the internal publics. The external publics, I listed the three questions that I came up with were what examples of these members are there within the community? Who communicates with these groups or who is responsible for communicating with these groups? And what form of communication do these people receive? I'm not going to go through each one of these. However, there were some things that I thought were interesting that I didn't think about until I had to analyze the internal publics and external publics. So for the school board, I listed out a couple things that the school board, who they communicate with frequently, which was the superintendent, our SAC committee, which is our superintendent's advisory committee. Um, we have those each month, and a school board member always sits on the SAC committee. So that's another way where they're gaining that information to use for the school board meetings. Also, just district initiative committees or strategy committees. I also wanted to point out something unique about the Derby School District is whenever talking about the external publics, when talking about the community members, local partners, and donors, we just hired, or there was a, not we, but there was a position that was created in Derby called the District Community Outreach Coordinator. And this person's responsibility is to be the liaison between the schools and the community members. So one thing that we were talking about was confidentiality when talking about teachers reaching out to these community members for volunteering or just support in the classroom, that there needs to be some sort of liaison to manage that conversation. So that was just something that I thought was interesting that not many school districts maybe have or have heard of. So overall, this is the graphic that I have created for my internal and external publics of the Derby Public School District.